Good morning. It's Sunday, November 5th, and first morning of daylight savings time. So that extra hour this fall was pretty nice. First, before I go into the topic today, which is, are you seeing incongruencies in your world? I want to just give you a brief update on the solar energy so that you can put some of this in context and sort of understand what may be going on for you yesterday, today, over this next week. We've had some really big solar winds hit our planet, hit our solar system. Yesterday, last night, early morning, and today. We've had a steady M class, M1, M high M1s for most of yesterday, last night, this morning. We had one at 7:32 Mountain Time this morning. So just know that there's some CMEs that are being released from the sun, that they're creating an enormous amount of winds, flares, and storms, and that it's going to affect your system. So again, go to spaceweather.com, go to some of the people you follow on Instagram and Facebook, find out what the timelines are and sort of put some pieces together. I guess the other thing I probably need to say is that my 2.5-year-old granddaughter gave me her cold, so I have this sort of scratchy voice and stuffed up nose. So just bear with me as I go through this today, right? Okay, so incongruencies. Are you seeing incongruencies in your life, in the world? I at least am, and I spent yesterday sitting at a coffee shop with another Pisces who's as observant, if not more, than I am. And we were just talking a lot about incongruencies, right? So in order to talk about incongruencies, we want to go back to the definition of congruent, of resonance, and alignment. Okay, so resonance is when your heart, when your energy field, when your body feels like it's more compatible. It feels comfortable with that's in resonance with me. My vibration and your vibration work. Aligned means I can step forward because I feel no resistance to that direction. It's aligned with where I want to go. When we talk about congruent, it means that what I'm seeing, what I'm taking in, what my knowledge and my intelligences are seeing they match what I know, what my system says, what my brain says. So it's a mental process, right? And it's where the mental observer is, and I looked up the definitions, detecting things that are similar, things that coexist, that they're compatible, accordant, corresponding to, relating to, or that you can agree that what you're noticing, what you know, is what's showing up. When things are incongruent, they're out of place. They're incompatible. They are inharmonious. They're not suitable. They're not fitting well together with what you know. And so it's like, there's a little bit of a gap, like, that didn't land well, and it doesn't align with what I know. Okay. And so what we're doing is we're seeing how the incongruencies are starting to show up in our mental field because of these solar activities, right? Whether they're shaking us awake, whether they're starting to shift us, we're growing, we're expanding our cellular system, our DNA is opening. And I was reading something by Nancy Waller Ward, and she said, and I thought it was the best term in this, the whole reason I want to talk about this, crumbling certain energetic structural elements that were set in place eons ago. So we are experiencing crumbling energetic structures that were set in place eons ago. Now, eons ago could be 500 years ago, 100 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. I like to sort of go to the 2,000 years ago or 3,000 and look at, what the Roman Empire put in place in our content, or on our planet, and on our continents, and how they have ruled with a very specific structure, right? The historian geek in me, right, has to say that. So an energetic structural element is when physical form is held in place by marked energy, by force, by action, by vigor, by design. So what we're really looking at is you come up with a belief system, or you come up with a institution, or you come up with a structure, and then you hold it in place with a series of reinforced energetic systems. So what happens is the things we focus on become physical. Whether it's our physical body, whether it's our rules, our values, our beliefs. Think of institutions like marriage or institutions like our financial. We believe that this is what it does, and so it is held together as that. So energetic is action, it's force, and it's momentum. And because the solar flares and the solar activity is changing our energetic system, these energetic structural forms are crumbling, they're rattling, they're falling apart. And what we're noticing is like there's some incongruencies. Our news isn't saying the things that we know that they've said before, right? You know, those of us who are old enough to go, this is what the news said 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. This is the way that we report information. That's not happening anymore. Another example, I mean, this is a totally silly example, but I've noticed that the post office keeps driving their prices up, the U.S. Postal Service. Yet now, those who deliver mail and those who are out representing the Postal Service are driving their own cars out. They don't have a uniform, and they're entrusted with all of our mail, which is our private property going from one place to the other. So there's these things where you're like, incongruent, does not make sense with the way that the structure has been set up before. So what does this mean to you? Because the reason I do this video is, what does this mean to you? It's like to put the topic out there and then drive it into what does it mean for you and, you know, and those around you, right? So let's start with you. Is that you're changing internally, you're shifting, and you're changing swiftly. You're shifting swiftly. It is happening at a much more rapid pace. If you were to look at where you were last year at this time, last November, or 3 years ago, last November, or 10 years ago, last November, it may feel like it isn't changing that fast. But when we look at context of how dramatically different you are from where you were from a marked period of time before, you can see it, right? You are becoming more transparent. That you're saying what you need to say, you're feeling it, and you can notice that the outside is giving you feedback immediately, right? You're seeing beyond the screens and you're asking questions. And so another example would be that I babysat for my kids last night, and they went to go see a movie, and the movie was 3.5 hours long. Now, I looked up the movie venues because I wanted to, like, what movie is 3.5 hours long? And I noticed that there were 4 movies playing at the movie theater that were 2 hours and 48 minutes to 3 hours and 30 minutes. And I kept going, well, what is going on? Movies have never been that long. They don't keep people in seats that long. Are they matching streaming? So this is where the intellectual, the incongruent part of me is like, what's happening with movies these days? Interesting. Okay. So jumping over to what does this mean to you, or back to, then what does this mean to the people around you? What's going to happen with your partner, your spouse, your kids, your friends, your coworkers? We have co-working situations where people are leaving. They're leaving jobs that they've had for 15, 20 years. They're saying, I'd rather do this on my own and keep my own hours than put up with this. So we're exploring, we're asking, we're noticing changes, right? And the more these solar storms, these flares, these winds hit our earth, the more external things around us crumble. And so our beliefs, our hates, our positions against, they're starting to sort of fall apart too. Like, ooh, I've always thought that that's who our enemies are, but maybe they're not, right? And so what's happening is our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual systems are all shifting within us. So this is where it's like, wow, we are in really big times of change. And who we were is changing. We're becoming incongruent with the lives we formed, the lives we built, the world that we built for ourselves at enormous speeds. It's been changing dramatically since 2020. We all know what happened in 2020, right? So this isn't good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. These shifts are aligning us with energetic shifts hitting all over our planet, all over our solar system. This is an individual. We are not being singled out. We are hitting, we are as a human population, as a cellular sentient being affected, right? So I have 6 tips for you. And before we go into tips, I just want to say that, again, it's always important to say that I'm a coach. I work on a 1-session basis or a package if you want. So I'm also a tarot reader. And so sometimes tarot reading is a lot more inexpensive than coaching, and it gives insights on a different level. So you can always drop me a message and say tarot reading or an hour session, and we will put some of these incongruencies in place for you. Okay. Little spiel there. Also, like, share, pass this around, because this is really important information that we need to start talking more about. Okay. I got 6 for you. Number 1, you can tell I'm a little spacey this morning. Know that you're experiencing incongruencies. Know it. Like, oh, that's what's going on, right? These, because your anxiety is going to be heightened. Your sensitivities are going to be off the chart. Your nervous system, per Lee Harris in his monthly energy report, went through a tremendous challenge over the month of October. So just know that your energetic system is incongruent right now with what's going on outside, and that there's going to be gaps in what you see and feel and what's going on with your body. Number 2, build your own tools for you and your family. What do you need? What kind of insights are going to help guide this? What do I need? What do my children need? What does my relationship need? Do we need less activities, less financial stress, less stress in whole, more sleep, more rest, a change in diet, lighten schedule? This is where we have to look at, do I need more exercise? Do I need to stretch? Do I need time in nature? What is my own individual needs? What are the collaborative needs of the people who I live with? And how do we communicate and make this happen? Which is, I think we all just need a little bit more rest. Who wants to talk about this and find out what what we can actually create together? Because we have to get real that our nervous systems, everybody's nervous system, is going to start acting out against each other or with each other. And we want to be compassionate about that, right? Number 3, validate what you see. We've talked about this before. What your interpretation is yours. That means that your insights, your intuition, your spidey sense is picking things up. Validate that, right? Oh, follow this insight. This is what's going on. Whether it's prices in the grocery store, whether it is availability for restaurants, flights, anything, it's all changing right now. And it is very different than it's been before. Number 4, redirect the densities, that flat, heavy energy that's going on right now. Because as we're being pummeled, our energy system and our nervous system is just like flattening out. It's exhausted, right? And it's really easy to go into, this is the end of the world. This is horrible, and I'm not dismissing that. What I'm saying is, why go there? It may be the end of the world as we know it. It may be the end of systems and beliefs that have held us in our parents and our grandparents for so long that we know nothing else, right? And what we're doing is we're responding and we're lightening the energy, which is, this is what change looks like. So this is what I need right now. And we sort of come up and we navigate from a much higher level of energy and light and joy and playfulness, right? Okay, so it's incongruent. Of course, it's incongruent. This is what I'm going to do. Number 5, I would say hydrate and hydrate and hydrate. And what I've noticed is that, between taking magnesium, between taking the electrolytes, between drinking filtered water, I'm thirsty all the time. And I finally talked to a girlfriend of mine who does a lot with diet and nutrition. I'm like, why is my body not feeling like it's getting enough water? And she said, use cucumbers. Use cucumbers. And so I've been eating cucumbers and putting cucumbers in my water, and it's absolutely changed the dryness, the sort of chapped feeling that my whole body feels when it gets dehydrated. So hydrate, it's really helpful. And then number 6 always is to have compassion, because we are morphing. You are morphing. Everybody's morphing. And we're navigating through changes that we have never been through. And we're making it up as we go along. So this is where we collaborate with others. We reach together and support each other, and we share what's going on. And we just make sure that we're not alone and that we are taking care of ourselves and others. So if you want more information on this, there's a description below and some links for other options and other sites. And over at my website, I have a lot more information for you. So you take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.